In today's video, we are taking a look at one of the most iconic events of World War II, the Nuremberg trials. Between the 20th of November 1945 and the 1st of October 1946, over 10,000 members of the Nazi Party were put on trial, with some of them being eventually sentenced to death. But what happened to their bodies after their executions? In this video, we're going to be exploring the mysteries behind their fate. In the final stages of the war, different proposals were put forth regarding punishment of the defeated Nazi leaders, varying from show trials in the Soviet Union to summary executions in the United Kingdom. Eventually, in mid-1945, France, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States reached an agreement to establish a joint tribunal in Nuremberg, occupied Germany. The trials were a series of military tribunals conducted by the Allies against prominent members of the political, military, and economic leadership of Nazi Germany. These leaders were charged with war crimes, crimes against humanity, and other serious offenses committed during World War II. The concept of crimes against humanity was first introduced at the Nuremberg trials. This term refers to the acts committed as part of a widespread or systematic attack against any civilian population with knowledge and intent. The inclusion of this charge in the Nuremberg trials expanded the scope of international law and established that individuals could be held accountable for their actions, regardless of their position of power. In addition to setting legal precedents, the Nuremberg trials also aimed to bring closure to the victims and survivors of Nazi atrocities. The testimonies given by witnesses during the trials shed light on the horrors committed during the war and gave a voice to those who had suffered in silence. Many view the trials as a crucial step in acknowledging and addressing the atrocities of the Holocaust. The Nuremberg trials marked a significant turning point in international criminal justice. For the first time in history, individuals and organizations were held legally accountable for war crimes on a global scale. The trials paved the way for the creation of permanent international criminal courts. It was a transformative moment, signifying the end of impunity for leadership crimes and the dawn of a new era where justice sought to transcend national boundaries. Some of the most notable defendants were Hermann Göring, founder of the Gestapo and Hitler's designated successor, Rudolf Hess, Hitler's deputy in the Nazi Party, Joachim von Ribbentrop, Nazi Germany's foreign minister, Wilhelm Keitel, chief of the German Armed Forces High Command, OKW, Ernst Kaltenbrunner, chief of the Reich Main Security Office, RSHA, which oversaw the Gestapo and the concentration camps, Alfred Rosenberg, minister of the Eastern Occupied Territories and head of the Reich Ministry for Occupied Eastern Territories, and Julius Streicher, editor of the anti-Semitic newspaper Der Stürmer. Göring was the official with the second highest rank to stand trial at Nuremberg, only superseded by the Reich president, ex-Admiral Karl Dönitz. On the 1st of October 1946, the Nuremberg Military Tribunal, after nearly a year of proceedings, delivered its verdicts on 22 high-ranking members of the Nazi Party. The tribunal handed down death sentences to 12 defendants, life imprisonment to 3, and lengthy jail terms to 4 others. Interestingly, 3 defendants were acquitted, found not guilty by the tribunal. Of these 22 men, 10 were sentenced to death by hanging. The individuals included Hans Frank, Wilhelm Frick, Alfred Jodl, Ernst Kaltenbrunner, Wilhelm Keitel, Joachim von Ribbentrop, Alfred Rosenberg, Fritz Zalkel, Arthur Seyss-Inquart, and Julius Streicher. The executions subsequently took place in the early hours of October 16, 1946, and were carried out in the gymnasium of Nuremberg prison by the United States Army. Initially, the idea of carrying out the execution in Berlin was discussed. However, after taking into account numerous safety concerns and the intention to avoid the Nazi leader's death site becoming a site of worship, the ultimate decision was made to execute them in Nuremberg. Also scheduled to be executed on the same day was Hermann Göring. Göring pleaded to be executed by firing squad, arguing it was a more dignified death for a soldier, but his appeal was denied by the court. He chose suicide over execution, swallowing a potassium cyanide pill the night before his scheduled hanging. Therefore, he chose to use the same type of poison and vial that Heinrich Himmler had used, who had ended his own life 17 months prior. There are numerous theories about how Göring got hold of the cyanide. Some speculate that US Army Lieutenant Jack G. Wheelis, assigned to the trials, found the pill hidden among Göring's seized possessions and gave it to him. Göring had previously given Wielis several personal items, including his gold watch, pen, and cigarette case. Another theory surfaced in 2005, when former U.S. Army Private Herbert Lee Stivers of the 1st Infantry Division's 26th Infantry Regiment, the Honor Guard at the Nuremberg trials, admitted to smuggling medicine to Göring. This was hidden in a fountain pen given to him by a German woman to deliver to the prison. Stivers later confessed he was unaware of the pill's contents until after Göring's suicide. Martin Bormann, head of the Nazi Party Chancellery and Hitler's private secretary, whose location was undetermined at the time of his death sentence, was tried in absentia by the International Military Tribunal. Amidst the post-war chaos, conflicting reports emerged regarding Bormann's whereabouts. Alleged sightings placed him in Argentina, Spain, and other locations. To ensure his capture, Bormann's wife was placed under surveillance. In July 1946, Jacob Glass, Bormann's longtime chauffeur, claimed to have seen him in Munich. In anticipation of the upcoming Nuremberg trials, public notices were widely disseminated in October and November 1945, aiming to inform Bormann of the impending proceedings. On 15 October 1946, he was sentenced to death by hanging, contingent upon the possibility of new evidence arising in the future that could potentially alter or mitigate the sentence. At 9:30 p.m., journalists were permitted to examine the cells and view the condemned prisoners. Fritz Sauckel was notably seen pacing anxiously, while Joachim von Ribbentrop was engaged in conversation with the chaplain. Jodl was occupied with writing a letter, and Göring appeared to be asleep, his hands over his blanket, a habit of his. However, events took a turn at 10:45 p.m. when Göring's suicide disrupted the scheduled proceedings, necessitating an investigation of the incident and the subsequent removal of the body for an autopsy. At 11:45 p.m., the condemned were provided their final meal, a choice between sausages paired with potato salad or pancakes served with fruit. Some of them fell asleep following their meal and had to be later woken up. In light of Göring's unexpected suicide, Ribbentrop was now next in line. At 1:11 a.m., Joachim von Ribbentrop, the first to be hanged in place of Göring, entered the gymnasium. Each had the chance to utter their final words. Only Alfred Rosenberg, the Nazi Party philosopher and the most talkative statesman, could find no words except a whispered "no" to be remembered by history. Joachim von Ribbentrop firmly stated, "God protect Germany. God have mercy on my soul. My final wish is that Germany should recover her unity and that, for the sake of peace, there should be an understanding between East and West. I wish peace to the world." While Julius Streicher remained unrepentant until the end, shouting Heil Hitler as he ascended the steps. From the scaffold he exclaimed, "The Bolsheviks will hang you all next. Jewish holiday, 1946, now it goes to God." At 2:45 a.m., Artus S. Inquart, the last among them, met his demise while shouting, "I believe in Germany." Master Sergeant John C. Woods and his aide, military police officer Joseph Malta, served as executioners. The methods employed by Woods involved standard drops during executions, which did not always result in immediate death as intended. Instead, some of the executions would take up to 14 to 28 minutes, according to some accounts. The army, however, disputed allegations of insufficient drop length and claims that the condemned were strangled instead of suffering fractured necks. Furthermore, due to the trapdoor's undersized dimensions, several of the executed sustained head injuries as they struck the trapdoor edges during their fall. The remains of Göring, along with those of the other executed men, were put on show at the site of their execution for those who were present. Afterwards, each body was shrouded in a mattress, along with the final clothing they wore, and then placed into coffins. These coffins were sealed and loaded into 2 awaiting trucks within the prison yard before being transported under military escort. The convoy, led by an American captain and followed by French and American generals, drove through Nuremberg and headed south, eventually arriving in Munich by dawn. They immediately proceeded to the city outskirts to a private crematorium. The crematorium was heavily guarded, with radio communications set up with surrounding soldiers and tanks in case of an emergency. Those who entered the crematorium were not permitted to leave for the rest of the day. The sealed coffins were opened, and the bodies were verified by the present American, British, French, and Soviet officers. Subsequently, the cremation process took place, lasting the entire day. In the evening, a container holding the ashes departed from the crematorium by car. Various reports suggest the ashes were either scattered in the wind from an aircraft or dumped from a bridge into the Isar River in Munich. Concrete information regarding this final act remains elusive due to the extreme secrecy maintained to prevent potential Nazi sympathizers from creating a place of worship for the executed Third Reich's high-ranking officials. This trial was just the first and most notorious among the Nuremberg trials. These were followed by 12 additional trials, which lasted until December 1949. Although it was, and still is, criticized for being seen as the justice of the victors, doubts have been raised regarding its moral and ethical legitimacy. Some have highlighted that the Soviets themselves were culpable of crimes against humanity and crimes against peace when they agreed to a non-aggression pact with Germany. Well, that's it. We hope you enjoyed our video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more fascinating history content. Thanks for watching, and until next time.